For the first time since 2016, your New York Football Giants are 1-0 to start the season. And for the first time since 2016, the New York Football Giants are above 500. And for the first time in this program, we got ourselves a victory pod, boys. Welcome to Breaking Tackles, the New York Football Giants podcast with your host, the originator, Tony, the man from Queens, Sal, our guest, Mike, the menace from Twitter, and I'm Manny. Guys, if you can't tell, I'm on that BDE right now. I'm on that Brian Daboll energy, and I'm feeling good. How are you guys feeling?
Feeling good, Manny.
My brother is the high is finally coming down a little bit from the win, but nonetheless, bro, on a high. All right.
Absolutely. Mike, how you feeling, man? Appreciate you coming back on.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Nah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. I feel pretty good, guys. I feel pretty good. I was pretty surprised they were able to pull that victory out. It was a nice surprise. For an opening Sunday to come away with a win. So it was good.
And the kind of win that it was too. Like, how many times have we seen now in the past 6 years, for example, that we get beat on that last second field goal? That field goal goes in. That's not us. I was already like expecting about the bad stuff that we were gonna see on Twitter and stuff like that. And one thing that I did like, and we'll get into Daboll a little bit, was just he was just grabbing onto his crucifix, yo. And that to me, I never seen that before on the sideline. Like, somebody, like, I seen people pray and stuff like that, obviously, whatever, but I don't know, something about that was just like, yo, he's gonna miss. Like, I'm not even genuine. A big faith guy. I'm not into like religious stuff or whatever, but I don't want to make this a religious thing, but it's something about it. I was like, whoa, like,
yeah,
it just called me different. But
Tony, you broke down those little pieces of that video that, if anything, I mean, it's a lot more than we're going to be seeing when they're on the press conferences, being able to see their live reactions on the sideline. So it's awesome. Before we start, I do want to give a shout out to our guest, Mike. If you guys don't know, my man welcomed another member to the family last week. Congratulations to your kids. As they say in the motherland, Agudi, my man.
My wife said that the newborn broke the curse. That's for the
let's go. Now we just need positivity up. Wins.
Let's go.
My wife said the newborn broke the curse. Yeah.
So obviously, like the Giants, we're on to Carolina. Game. It's Wednesday. They're already talking about that, but we didn't get a chance to talk since our last show. What last minute thoughts do we have on the Titans and Prince Henry? Honestly, for me, I'll start and I'll say this. I'm gonna commend the defense for how they looked, because I was not confident in how they were gonna look when our edges were out. That's crazy. We're expecting something. We're losing our minds because our rookie isn't starting at edge. Crazy. I was worried about that. Obviously, there has been a big question mark on Aaron Robinson and the secondary as a whole, outside of the safeties and Adoree'. I was worried about that run defense. I was worried about our linebackers. To be honest, I mean, they could have pressured more. It wasn't the best defense of the week by far. But the fact that you held Derrick Henry to under 82 yards and 3.9 yards per carry, and he didn't break the game. He didn't put anybody on a poster or on a meme. He didn't Heisman anybody. He didn't have a long run. You contained him. Everybody was going after him. Like, I think I saw a stat that said the Giants were the third best defense at tackling. And we saw that. There's been plenty of times we saw people breaking tackles against our team, but we didn't see that recently with Derrick Henry. And it's week one, obviously, but I was just really impressed. And I'm going to start with that, because that's honestly, for me, a big next to Saquon. That right there has to be another reason why this game was won. Sal, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I was very impressed by the way that they game planned this game. I think this was a victory that, honestly, you don't often get to say this, but your coaches won this game. Right? They walked in this game They had a very clear game plan, which was antithetical to what we see in the NFL today. They came in and said, we're going to shut down the run and we're going to run the ball. And Wink Martindale, to his credit, with a limited roster, stacked the box. He just stacked the box. He made Henry face 8, dared Tannehill to beat him. And for whatever reason, Vrabel and his offensive coordinator never adjusted. They kept running the ball. And they held Henry down. They did a good job of stopping him. And on the other side of the ball, what else can you say? This was Saquon Barkley's game. They ran the ball right through him. They actually ran more rush plays than pass plays, which is insane in today's NFL. But they knew what they had to do to win this game, and they accomplished it. And at the end of the day, like most games, it came down to the final drive, and it came down to coaching and some execution by players. Saquon, what can you say? The guy he put us on his back and took us into that end zone on that 2-point conversion and really down that drive. And Brian Dable, my goodness, the balls on that guy. First game, just saying, you know what? We don't play to tie. We play to win. I'm not afraid to lose, but I'm going for the win. I think fortune favors the bold, and I think that field goal was destined to be wide. Based on the way Dable played that game, he deserved to win that game. So that's how I look at it. This was a coaching victory. They knew who their best player was and how to stop the other team's best player, and that's all there was to it.
Absolutely. Tone, what do you think, my man?
Yo, I think Sal said it beautifully, so I won't add much after that, man. It was, and in my opinion, it was the better coaching staff who won the game. And, the game plan to me was, hey, your outside linebackers are not playing. And to me, I even said this at tweet sometimes. Honestly, I'm okay with the backups in, because the two guys that matters is Dexter Williams and Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. I'll combine their names because they are a single unit. Them two guys, whenever we're facing a run first defense next week, even though it's not necessarily a run first, it is a versatile running back, and we'll talk about that later. The game plan is on those two guys. But again, Wink, like Sal said, game planned perfectly to stop Henry. And you know what the Titans should have done? They should have featured less of Henry and more of their backup running back, who was killing us. But sometimes teams just don't want to do the smart thing, and for whatever reason, they didn't do the smart thing on offense, man. Big shout outs, and not enough people are giving this man credit. Feliciano, baby. Like, he first of all, the big Saquon run, that after that, I feel like Kafka was like, oh, let's scratch the game plan. Go through Barkley. Because if you notice the beginning of the game, they wasn't giving that many rushing attempts to Barkley. And as soon as the second half came and they broke that one run, it was like, oh no, we're going to feature Barkley hard. And Feliciano had a big part of that. And so much props to him. Obviously, much props to Barkley. Mike, go right ahead, brother.
I mean, if we want to give shout outs on the offense, I mean, obviously we know Saquon did his thing, right? Mm-hmm. He played phenomenal. Looked like he carried 2 years worth of frustration and aggravation throughout that entire game. Probably the hardest I've seen him run. I personally think it was his best game as a pro.
Really?
Since
it was a signature game for sure.
Yeah, to me, it was his best game as a pro. I mean, he really played exceptionally well. I think what that kind of gets lost a little bit too, though, is when they took Bredson out, right, and they put Ezeudu in, that guy bodies people, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so they ran the ball for 124 yards off the left side. So I think initially the game plan was really designed around giving Jones the opportunity to throw the ball around quite a bit, get him comfortable, slinging the rock. They felt Bredson was probably the better pass blocker in that scenario, and then the offense just could not get going. And then you credit the coaches, like Sal said, right? Like they made the adjustments they needed to make. They played to the team's strength on that day, which was running off the left side behind Andrew Thomas, behind Ezeudu. That's where it was, right? Like, and they did the things that they need to do. I was really happy to see two things that came into play. One, end around, right? We discussed the end arounds, right? I had mentioned that a while ago that I expected Kafka to bring that in. We saw Tony get a big end around where he was able to rush for about like 15 yards on that play, which was great.
A design
and then-
pass, which he, didn't like what he saw open, and he just ended up improvising himself. Michael Vick status.
and then you go right to the shovel pass, right, which is a Kansas City staple of their offense in short yardage, goal line situations. More often than not, it goes to Travis Kelce.
Their
In
best
that case,
player,
because
like
he's
you
their
said.
best player, they usually motion him in, and then they end up running that shovel pass underneath. So it was really good to see that stuff getting incorporated and how this team responded to that. Defensively, I really can't understand how the Titans didn't just sit back and just sling the rock all over the field. I mean, our secondary was getting torched.
Coaching, man.
In that,
Coaching.
I mean, they were getting absolutely torched. And on the final drive, after we get the momentum and we get the 2 points, and I mean, they go right down the field. And I was actually on the phone with a buddy of mine while that was going on, and I said to him the little play that no one paid attention to, and it goes to coaching. Titans did not communicate getting the play call in fast enough. They had to burn a timeout.
That
right?
timeout
And
was crucial, yo.
that timeout that they burned took their ability to run another play to try to get another pass play for another 8 or 10 yards that they likely were going to get because they were literally just clicking. The Giants defense was allowing them
No
to
answer.
pick up the yardage to eat the clock. So you're looking at the Titans getting another play, picking up another 8 to 10 yards, which shortens the length of that field goal, right? And they just couldn't do it. They had to burn that timeout. And I said, man, that's going to bite them. And, next play, they got Tannehill. He runs to his right, takes a knee down. They spike the ball. It's a little frantic. They get these guys back out there. And, I said to my buddy, I was like, he's going to miss the kick, man. Like, he's missing this kick. Like, it's going to happen.
Would you-
Man, my wife was right there telling me that too.
Would you have taken the day of game?
So in that scenario, probably not. So I can't blame them for burning the timeout. What you can blame is how are you in a pivotal drive to get into field goal range and you can't get your play communicated fast enough to your quarterback in that situation to allow him to get 8 to 10 yards, even if it was another 5 yards. Like it's a big difference when it comes to kicking field goals, man. Like that's not nothing, dude.
And
Bullock
and
I'd be ripping
isn't.
the Giants if it was them that had the same problem. Like you can't make those mistakes.
And Bullock isn't automatic. He's missed some before in the past. He's not far from automatic. But I'll say, hey, we'll take it.
Absolutely.
We 1-0, baby. We're undefeated.
We
The
haven't had
road
those-
to 17-0 began.
17-0,
Continues.
Yeah. Yo, real quick,
before we
before
yeah,
we
go
keep
ahead.
going, let me go ahead and give a shout out to the chat, man. We got 8 people watching us right now. Monty, Stan, and Base. Monty liked that Fortune favors the bold comment that you mentioned, Sal.
Yep.
Stan said, yo, what up, fellas? What's going on, baby? And then Base
What up,
said,
what up?
Ivan said, talk about my QB. So we will
I'll-
get to
can I
that.
s-
So let's
Please.
go ahead and lead towards that way.
Yeah. Let's make this short and quick because that's about as much more time DJ has as our QB, unless he takes that pivotal step. By the way, fortune favors the bald. Thank you.
Thank
Listen,
you.
I think
appreciate that.
I think Daniel Jones was I at best. He was I, and I mean I in moments. As a whole, it wasn't a great game. Far from his best. Far from it.
Yeah.
Not the worst, but my God, like that interception, I don't care what he was looking at, what he was seeing. And kudos to Brian Daboll for getting on him the way he should, the way every coach should get on their QB. But Daniel Jones didn't look good in that, didn't look great. He didn't lose the game for us. Okay, great. I'll give you that. He didn't win the game for us either. If we had, an Alfred Morris or Wayne Gallman, or Devin Booker, a guy that they said was better than Saquon, if we had those guys, then we would have lost that game and probably lost a lot worse. So listen, it's first game. All right, you won. Lucky. Let's see what he does this week against a guy who pretty much called him trash before he was drafted.
So, well, by the way, somebody who was watching the stream muted, but yeah, I'll go ahead and say my piece, and then Mike, and then Sal. I'll say this, man. Like, people need to relax with, oh, my QB had a good QBR, my QB had a good completion percentage, and that's why he had a good game. Yeah, your QB should have a high QBR. Your QB should have a high percentage when there's only 3 passes over 20 yards.
Jesus Christ.
When the majority of his passes are 10 yards or less. So let's not go crazy here, guys. Like, at the end of the day, my biggest problem is not even his passes. My biggest problem is Daniel Jones is the guy where it's either live or die. It can never be, oh, pass incomplete or throw it away. It has to always be, oh, the sack got to him. Like, yo, bro, like those 5 sacks, realistically, maybe 2 or 3 tops. But all 5 sacks, some of them could have been avoidable. And to me, it's just, we saw with Ryan Tannehill, and I was like, yo, it's funny because at one point I was saying to myself, there's no way Ryan Tannehill could be like as good as Jones, or, you know what I'm saying? But what I'm trying to say is the best Jones could be is Ryan Tannehill. And to be honest, whoever is joking on Ryan Tannehill, bro, joke's on you. Because Ryan Tannehill, if he would have had a better coaching staff, a better team, not a better team, because that team is great, the better coaching staff, he would have won that game easily, man. His coaching staff lost that game for him, but Jones almost single-handedly lost that game for us. And I'm not even gonna sugarcoat that. Like, that was not a good performance. Just because your QBR was valid, I'm not gonna buy that, man. Like, that's not me. Sal, but you have way more interesting shit to say about this, so go ahead, brother.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to make this about, I think so.
It's not about him. It's not about him.
Right. It's not about.
It's in spite of him. Okay, go ahead.
And for those who know, I've, Twitter Spaces. Shout out to all our friends in Twitter and on the Spaces. There was like a little bit of a heated back and forth the day after the game, where I was kind of accused of being, very negative and attacking Daniel Jones for simply saying what I thought was a fairly plain fact, which was that Saquon Barkley won this game, the coaching staff won this game, and Jones kind of almost cost us the game. And
absolutely,
they decided not to really trust him. They decided to go with the run game instead of the pass game on the final drive, which I think is pretty obvious. But here are the stats that I want to go to, because the response I get from people who want to turn this into like a success story for Jones as a game, which is
an amazing game. How?
Right. Well, so they point to some, pretty rudimentary stats. So he had an 81% completion percentage, right? And they're like, well, look how efficient, look how 81%, look how great he was. And he did what he had to. So, that's a pretty archaic way of looking at success for a quarterback. There are better stats that assess value, advanced stats. And I'm sure if Monty's still listening, I know he's into this stuff. But we're going to talk about a couple of stats that I want people to begin to understand. One, which I think most people should know about, is EPA, which stands for estimated points added. I won't go into the mathematical calculation, which is complex. But basically, the idea is that per play, the play you make, it either adds to the value of points that your team is supposed to score, or it might negatively impact your ability to score. It might help the other team. So it's a better way of gauging per play how a player is performing, right? So let me just give you some stats here. In EPA, and the higher the better. EPA per play, Daniel Jones ranked, his score was negative 0.259.
Ether.
Okay. And just to give perspective, the number one in the NFL was Pat Mahomes at positive 0.765. Where does Daniel Jones negative 0.259 rank? it ranks him as 29 out of 32 NFL starting quarterbacks on Sunday. Okay, so he was bottom 5 in EPA, meaning that every time he touched the ball and it had a pass play that was in his hands, the other team had a better chance of scoring on the following drive than we did. I mean, this is just what the statistical analysis shows you.
Crazy, bro.
Okay, here's another stat. Success rate. For those who don't know, success rate is basically a way to add better value to the yards that you pick up on a play, right? So you can throw for 20 yards, but if the play is 3rd and 19 and you didn't get a first down, that's not a successful play. Versus you might throw for 4 yards on a 3rd and 3, that's a successful play. The technical definition is whatever number of yards you need to go on first down to get another first down, you got to get 40% of it to have a successful play. On second down, you got to get 60% of it, and on 3rd and 4th, you got to get 100% of it. So again, the best success rate for a quarterback of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, 71.1% success rate. Okay, he was number 1. Daniel Jones, 39.4% success rate, which was 27th best in the NFL or 7th worst in the NFL. Meaning, 61% of the time, he did not have a successful play when he had the ball in his hands. So these are, pretty strong, undeniable advanced stats that say he's still not doing enough. He did not do enough to carry his team to victory. He did not add value from the quarterback position towards our victory, which is why I got on Spaces and said, this victory happened largely in spite of Daniel Jones. He was actually a negative value. So all that game all year, and we're going to see what this is about. But personally, I just saw the same guy who is basically negatively impacting our team when you look at this through the eye test, which I think we can all agree on. And now when you look at these stats, they support that idea that he was negatively impacting the team. We won this game in spite of him, not because of him.
Amen. And real quick, big shout out to the chat. We got Ash here. We got Nate. What's going on, guys? Just real quick before Mike even goes, this is what I want to say elsewhere. This is not even as complex as what Sal is going. There were 4 passes above 10 yards or more. So 4 passes, 1 incomplete, 1 intercepted, 2 passes caught. That's it. So that shit is mediocre as hell, bro. Everything else,
it's mid.
Underneath. So
mid.
If that's what you want to live by, go for it. Mike, go right ahead.
Mike, turn up that negativity, my man.
We need to know real quick Joe Shane's college travel plans for this week, because we need to see what college quarterback is gonna see.
If you see Mike's shoulders so big because he carries Giants Twitter on his fucking back.
What it is, baby. What it is. So I look at it this way. Sal's a stat guy, right? Like he dives into the stats. I'm an eye test guy. I can see what I can see.
Me too.
And that's how I go off of it. I equate the quarterback, and that is how he will be known coming from me, and from now until the end of his tenure here, is he will just be the quarterback. That's just where we're at. He's getting the Lord Voldemort treatment from now until the end of the season. So exactly. So the quarterback in this instance, played a typical game that he normally would play. It was very unspectacular. Nice throw to Shepard. He did a good job identifying that, throwing it off his back foot. That was one of his best plays of the day, right? So that's fine. After that, it is what it is, man. I mean, the way I equate it for this kid is, when you're in school and you're going to school and you're trying to learn a subject and you study really hard and you go for extra credit and you do extra work and you're there, right? And the teacher just looks at you and goes, you suck at this, but since you worked so hard, I'm going to grade you on a curve, right? And that's what our fan base is doing right now.
Yo.
Grading him on a curve.
They're grading him on a curve. That's the one I'm going to use. Stop grading this man on a curve.
He's being graded on a curve. If you actually watch this guy play, and he played for another team, and he was not here. this is the type of dude that we would be clowning on. Like, oh my God, how the hell is he still playing over there? We would be doing this shit. We did it to Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz is a much better player than what our quarterback is. So, I mean, it's what it is. We do this stuff all the time, right? So we're grading him on a curve. We're giving him a pass. You know, fans want to say, "Oh, but he did this good." And look, we won the game. Aren't you happy? Yeah, of course I'm happy we won the game. I'd be happier if we had a competent person at the position, because if we did,
Oh, Manny, mute that
wouldn't be
background.
relying on a last-second missed field goal. We would have just won the game. It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have mattered. Ridiculous.
Hey, that's my dog. Sorry about that. Shout out my dog, my pod mate.
Your dog sounds like the dog from the movie Snatch that ate the thing.
Yo, I thought it was going on something.
Yeah, it's a Daniel Jones shoe toy.
I hear you. Sheesh. Nah, so I think we're good on Daniel Jones. What do you guys think? Is there anything else that you guys want to touch base on of the Titans game? By the way, I'll say this. The Titans are a good team. They might lose to the best team, which is the Bills, coming up on Monday. Granted, fine. They don't have the firepower to keep up with them. At least I don't think so. They could come out also like... The Titans also have this thing with them that they also play up or down towards the teams that they're playing. So they might give the Bills a very good game, too.
Giant fans, I can relate to that pretty well. I understand what
exactly.
that's like.
We've done that before too when we were like in our good days. But like, don't get it twisted. Like, the Panthers are not the Titans, and we could get into the Panthers and now what are we expecting in that? Don't think that, in my opinion, and I guess I'll go first now. The Panthers aren't gonna give the Titans. Are gonna give the Giants a more difficult opportunity than, like, it's not going to be a harder game than the Titans. The Titans didn't even need to blitz as much to create that much pressure as they did. I think somebody on Twitter mentioned it was 62% pressure that Daniel Jones had in that game. Like, yes, the Panthers could also make 62%, but they're going to send boys over there. Like, it's not going to be just sending four or doing their simulated pressure. That's what the Titans call it, where they send you four, but you don't know where the four is coming from. I saw the Browns game against the Titans, and the Browns loaded the Panthers loaded
Browns
the
versus
box.
Panthers.
The Browns versus the Panthers. The Panthers loaded the box against Nick Chubb, and all they did was run outside zone and still cook the Panthers. In their box loaded. Obviously, I'm not saying that we have the offensive line the Browns have, because the Browns have one of the best teams. Like, Baker Mayfield's holding back that team last year. That team was stacked. But I'm also confident in our offensive line. If our offensive line was able to run against the Titans, who the Titans have not allowed a 100-yard rusher. I think they only allowed like 300-yard rushers in last year. And since 2012, 2018, they haven't allowed anybody rush over 150 yards, which Saquon did. It's not going to be easy for the Panthers. I'm not saying we're going to roll over them, because unfortunately we have Daniel Jones at quarterback, and he's going to make sure that everybody stays in the game. Opposing teams are going to be in the game because of Daniel Jones. But if he does have, and I never doubt, as much as I don't like Jones, hey, he could have a game. Every squirrel could find a nut.
He's had one. Yeah.
He could find a good game. If he does, then we might be able to steamroll Carolina. But if he doesn't, I'm still expecting a 4 to 7 point game win for the Giants, to be honest. And I'll leave it at that in terms of for the offense. For our defense, it's the exact same thing, where you gotta make McCaffrey and the rest of that offense one-dimensional. First, stop McCaffrey from his run. Stop it from the line of scrimmage runs. I know that him being involved in the passing game is a completely different animal, and we do not have the skill set right now to keep up with him. Not Calicho, not Crowder. Those guys will look really bad, with the exception of maybe on screen passes. they will look really bad if they're the ones trying to guard McCaffrey. And the Giants, not the Giants, the Panthers saw those plays where were man beating plays where they will lined up the quarterback, the running back next to Tannehill, and they'll have twins left. They had the twins clear out the way for the running back just to go and run a wheel route. The Tay Crowder got blocked because of the wide receiver, so he was way behind. And I think the running back ended up scoring a touchdown in that play, Hilliard. And Hilliard killed us. They should have removed Henry.
two touchdowns. Yeah,
They should have removed Henry and let Hilliard play the rest of that game, and they would have won that game if Hilliard was playing the rest of that game. But anybody that want to take it for the Panthers game and just give kind of like a on that, go for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the one thing with this Panthers game is that I'm praying and I'm getting every Jesus candle and religious candle I can find at the supermarket, lighting it up this weekend before the game. We need one of those edge rushers. I mean, if I think the rookie tackle, Ikem Ekwonu, he gave up like 2.5 sacks. And granted, he gave it up to a guy who's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year if he continues on the track he is, which is Myles Garrett. But I think the edges can be had in this offensive line. The offensive line is not as great.
Ekwonu looks
Ekwonu doesn't look. It's not as big of an upgrade.
He went against Garrett too.
Exactly, it's not as big of an upgrade as we were talking, as it looked like on paper. I think our defense interior can take on that interior. I think if we have our edges, if we have Kayvon, if we have Azeez there, they're going to make the game more interesting.
I would love to see Azeez in that.
Yeah, I think that to me is what gets me thinking that the Giants can win this game, is because I don't have much confidence in Baker Mayfield. I heard somebody in the chat, shout out Cookie Monster in the chat, saying, that Baker Mayfield is better. Well, I commented back. They're both stir fry. They're both not very good.
They're both
trash. And I mean, if we're gonna talk about the offense for the Panthers, I mean, in 10 carries, Christian McCaffrey had 33 yards, 3.3 yards per carry. That's not very good. And I get it. The Browns got a good defense, I mean, I'm just still not. It still wasn't very. I wasn't very enthusiastic. And I think what we did against the best running back in football, I think we could definitely have that same type of success. You're not going to play it the same, but you're capable because, I think Derrick Henry's better at what he does than Christian McCaffrey. They're both completely different players. So I'm glad that that's a narrative that's out there. So I'm just excited to see how this defense does against this offensive line, because the whole offense to me on our side is still a big question mark.
Mm-hmm. Sour Mac.
It's Saquon or bust.
Sour Mac.
Yeah.
Whichever one you guys want to go through.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I think on defense, it's important to know that we're going against a different kind of a scheme. The Titans defense, as good as it is, might have been a fairly good matchup for us in a lot of ways, and the type of schemes they put together. What Carolina generally plays, they're if you want to call it a base, not that anybody really plays base anymore, but they largely play cover 1 or cover 3. And I think that if you added up, something like 60 or 70% of their plays are out of cover 1 or cover 3, and they split them pretty evenly. Sometimes they play man because they have the corners in Jackson and Horn to play man. Sometimes they go into the zone, into cover 3, and they actually play zone, but they do make it a little bit harder for your quarterback unless he can beat guys one-on-one when they're playing cover 1. And the point is, you're going to have to depend on Jones a little bit here to beat guys and make reads quickly, which is not his strength. And make those plays. They have good edge rushers. Obviously, Burns is excellent. Matos, not as good, but the thing about Burns is he's not a one side or the other guy. He's not going to line up on the right side and face Andrew Thomas all game, because if he did, he wouldn't go anywhere, because Andrew Thomas is just an absolute.
Andrew Thomas is a dog. Shout out Andrew Thomas.
But he's going to line up on both sides, and there are times he's going to line up against Evan Neal, who's a rookie, who had a good game for a rookie, but still had a lot, had some bad reps. And he's, you face a guy like Burns, you're going to struggle probably. So you're going to get pressure. They're not going to be an easy team for the quarterback to beat. And I think you're going to see more of the Saquon Barkley show. They gave up a lot of yards. Most of those yards they gave up last week were in wide zone. A lot of pitches and running, outside the tackles. So you might see more of that. unless they adjust. I don't know. We'll see. But it's not an easy matchup for our limitations on offense.
Mhm.
On defense, I think Mike alluded to it. He's right. We're gonna have to be in dime like the whole game. Number one, we don't have the bodies, right? I mean, we don't have coverage linebackers who can take a guy like CMC. CMC, he had a bad game, but unless he's still not healthy, he can beat us in the receiving game pretty badly.
Robinson is out.
Right, and so Aaron Robinson had an appendectomy, and he's out. So we've lost one of our two corners. We're down to Fabian Moreau, God help us, right, as our number 2 cornerback. Most likely, and we're gonna, I think Dane Belton's healthy, but I heard a couple of our other DBs were not healthy, like Pennick, and so we're gonna need all hands on deck. I do think we're gonna have to play dime and just hope that we can hold on and dime and hold these guys back. So I actually don't think Wink is gonna unleash the fury, in a blitz. I think we're gonna see less blitz, a lot of dime, try to hold these guys down, let them beat us with the run game. If they want to hand the ball off to CMC and run up the middle, let them do that. But you just cannot get behind in this game and get cooked because we don't have the DBs to hold on.
Sal, you're talking about the DBs really quick before we go to Mike. What Mike Base asked in the chat, shout out Base. What do you think about Dane Belton? It looks like he's probably going to play this week. What do you think about the impact he's going to have?
I think he's going to play like 80% of the snaps on defense. I think he's going to be out there.
He is he's built like a true strong safety. I don't know if you guys noticed, and that's one thing that bothered me. McKinney, which we would ideally want him solely on that sky high, single high center field free safety. They had to bring him down because obviously they needed the best players to be in the places of need. So they moved Love back to center field. Love was irrelevant in this game again. Like, I can't even tell you his stats. He probably had his couple of tackles and stuff like that. But that's what I keep telling you guys about the other safety position. That's important. Like, I don't want to have to bring McKinney in down the box. I want McKinney to stay out there. Hopefully Belton, who is built like a fast linebacker, could go ahead and lay the thump out down there. But also, hopefully him, because he's a fast guy, hopefully he could stay with... I'm praying that he could stay with McCaffrey. And
no, I mean, I think he played that role in Iowa, right? He was the cash backer in Iowa where he was really kind of like that downhill safety, but he was able to drop back into cover. He was pretty good in zone, not as great in man. But I think that's what you need to complement a guy like McKinney. The problem is I think you're going to need one of these guys to basically play like linebacker too, right? And I think I don't think we can trust Tay Crowder out there for a lot of snaps. If they're sending CMC out, he can't be his assignment. He's gonna get cooked.
Yo, let's bring Landon Collins, man. Let's bring Landon Collins.
Yeah, I mean, that was shout out to Monty. I think he's still here. Who was saying that? I was like,
I think it was
Monty
that I saw it.
I remember.
Yo, not for nothing. That's not a terrible idea, yo.
As a linebacker, but he was
as a linebacker. No, as a linebacker, yeah. And then, yo, play man on McCaffrey. So again, once it gets too crazy on that stuff, nobody's gonna keep up with McCaffrey, bro. If he's running like freaking man beating routes, and we're in man, it's gonna be a long day for us.
Let me make one last point. I want to kick it off to Mike and hear what he has to say. But we haven't touched on the receivers, and their receiving crew is a serious problem for us. Big problem.
on who's that guy?
DJ Moore.
No, not Moore. You gotta keep him on the long guy.
Roby Anderson.
Anderson.
The speedster. Speed on speed. Yeah.
Yeah, so Anderson, Moore, Smith, Chenault, Marshall, they have 5 guys. They have a track team. These guys all run 4-3. I mean, these guys run all 4-3, 4-4 40s. They are just downhill threats.
I didn't even know that.
And it is a problem. I mean, I can see them just lining up and shooting verticals on us and just testing our diminished DB room. So this game, I know a lot of Giants fans.
We're probably not going to be in single high. We're probably going to be in cover 2 shells, like cover 2 man or cover 2 zone.
That's what I'm saying. I think to make up for our lack of personnel, shout out again to Monty. I mean, Wink keeps adapting. Everybody said Wink doesn't adapt. This man adapts. He makes the most of what he's got. I do think he's going to play more cover 2 than we expect. He just doesn't have the bodies right now to play, single high and let guys just be on the outside with some of these receivers, you know. So, and he doesn't have the edge rushers to get there right now. I mean, unless Kayvon and Aziz play, which I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either.
Yeah, we have a significant problem on defense. I'll put it that way.
Maybe Ojulari. I'm not big on Tibbs playing, but I think Ojulari might be able to get better from the calf. But Mike, go right ahead, brother. Bless us with what you got for this game with the Panthers.
So if we start with the offense, big concern is going to be how the interior offensive line is going to hold up, right, against the defensive front for Carolina. Brian Burns is a problem, all right? Like, he's a problem, and I think he's going to be matched up on Evan Neal the majority of the game. Neal struggles with speed rushers. He's a rookie. He's going to, I understand Neal played well last week. He did okay. And got better as the game went on, but it's an area of weakness that they're going to look to try to exploit early in that regard. You brought up that Jones doesn't like to, run to his left in the previous video. Well, when Burns is coming at him and he can't get to his right, he's going to have no other option but to go left.
He's going to take a sack, bro, and they're going to blame the sack on the terrible offensive line. That's going to be the story.
So regardless of that, but this is a game where I expect Darius Toney to actually get more playing time this week. I think if Wan'Dale was healthy, I would say probably not. They would, Toney would be still, in the doghouse a little bit and wouldn't get as many reps. But with Wan'Dale now likely going to be out, Toney's going to be a huge X factor for the offense. The fact that the Panthers are going to be overly aggressive on the defensive front while having the corners to be able to man up with our receivers, right? Shep's not going to get away from any of these guys, the way he did, the other day again, on Sunday. You're going to see it. They're going to need Toney to be the guy that's going to have to make those moves. But I also expect there to be a ton of screens being run this week. It's going to be a lot of quick wide receiver screens this week. I would expect, again, Toney goes in motion across the field, gets in the slot, gets a quick bubble screen to try to get the ball in space, right, and get guys moving around. You're going to see Barkley get a handful of screen passes as well. There's going to be a lot of that going on just to try to get the defensive front to come up while the receivers our receivers do a pretty decent job blocking. Honestly, they're actually pretty decent blocking receivers.
Shep, I didn't even know Shep and everybody on Twitter. Everybody on Twitter, like, except for me, I guess, but like everybody on Twitter was like, "Yo, Shep is the man blocking," and he showed he was the man blocking. Yeah,
he's outstanding.
One thing that you just mentioned to me about screens, Mike. Let me get 2 seconds. Last game there was a screenplay that it was just perfectly set up. Daniel Jones threw a nice little over the ball to Saquon, but freaking Evan Neal just stayed watching the play instead of looking for somebody to block. And I'm gonna look for that play, and I'm gonna post it because it was one of the plays I was breaking down. Evan Neal. And to me, I felt like I saw Evan Neal watching a lot. Like, it was just...
he was looking for someone to block. I mean...
It was just moment. It looked like the moment was too big for him at times. And he was just like, instead of like, yo, haul ass, boy, haul ass. And he's going to get better at that.
Yeah, I'm sure Johnson chewed his ass out on that play because he shot into the second level looking for somebody to block. And then the defensive end was just kind of freed up. And it blew up the play. But that's he's a rookie.
He's a rookie in game 1. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, screen wise, there's no team in the NFL that runs screens better than the Kansas City Chiefs. Right?
And we look good.
And again, for the last 5 years, 6 years, the Giants have been horrible at running screens.
So bad.
And one of the things that makes Kansas City so good is they practice it a lot. Right, like it's a big staple in what they do. So I would suspect that we're going to see that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some tight end screens to Bellinger, where he's going to block and then slip out real quick and get a couple of those, and let the lineman get out in front to create him some space in the middle of the field. That's where I see the offense basically going. They're going to run the ball. Obviously, we know they're going to run the ball with Barkley. A little bit of a different run scheme than what Cleveland runs in terms of that outside zone where they get these guys out on the stretch. The Giants linemen are not athletically built to run an outside zone, right? So they're not good. Like these are guys that are designed to go forward, not lateral, right? Andrew Thomas could go lateral, but outside of Andrew Thomas, there's nobody else on that offensive line that's going lateral to get outside zones set up. They're going to run a power.
They did a
gap
really good
scheme.
job last week on that, because that's where you saw kind of the double pulls where you saw Feliciano and then you saw Glowinski.
Not a zone.
No. It
not
was
a zone.
It was pulls. It was like trap plays. It looked like power pulls. It wasn't zone.
Yeah, power
and
gap.
I don't think they have that scheme. I don't think it's a zone scheme, to be honest. So I don't know. At least we didn't see it in week 1. We didn't see it in week 1.
Yeah, they don't have the running outside to run that zone scheme like they do in San Francisco, like they did in Washington. That's the Shanahan running scheme, right? Your linemen have to be athletically gifted and lateral, so they don't necessarily have to be big-bodied guys. They have to be guys that are freakishly athletic, that can get out in front and stretch and give the running back that option.
Correct.
We're not that type of offensive line. We're not that type of offense. It's going to be very power gap heavy.
I agree.
So as much as I would think that Saquon could play well this week, and I think he will, I don't know if the assumption of what he did last week is going to carry over into this week against a different defensive front. It's going to, be a little bit more accustomed where they were exposed on the zone, but we are not equipped to run the zone. They're probably a little bit better handling the power gap with what they have on the interior. So I would look for that from that regard. Switching over to the defensive side of the ball, obviously, I've mentioned a couple of times earlier today in my tweets that I expect, more DBs on the field. Like, I think that's just inevitable. I don't think that's going to help. And the reason why I don't think it's going to help is I think we're going to get cooked by DJ Moore. I honestly think DJ Moore is going to absolutely roast whoever the second corner is.
I have him in my fantasy.
And you could talk about Baker Mayfield and what his limitations are as a quarterback, because there certainly are plenty of them. Like you mentioned before, like it was week 1 for them, new offense. And I know that the quarterback supporters are going to jump in here now and go, but it was week 1 for us and a new offense. But
he got traded.
Don't shoot me,
He didn't have OTAs. He didn't have mini camp with them. He got traded in training camp. I don't know if it was week 1 of training camp or week 2, but it was
fair. It was still, I think it was like right before their first preseason game. So he at least was able to play 3 preseason games with them.
But that means that he just had to learn the playbook on the go. He hasn't had the playbook in the whole offseason.
And in his defense also, his main competition was, Sam I see goes Darnold. So yeah. It wasn't like he had he had a lot of things working for him to go towards and make it start.
I'm glad Sal had brought it up about the receivers, because I do believe that the receivers are really a nightmare matchup for what we're able to do. And quite frankly, the Titans receivers weren't anything special,
No.
but they were still getting open routinely. Treylon Burks had a lot of really decent plays against us. You're stepping up a caliber and receiver speed-wise with Robbie Anderson. I think Adoree will stick with him, and that'll go that way. But Adoree doesn't shadow best receiver and chase him all over the field either. He sticks to one side of the field typically. They're going to move these guys around to create the mismatches that they want to create. And then CMC is just a different runner than Henry, right? So like we talked about what Henry does, and it's very north-south type of runner. Carolina's going to utilize the zone run against us. Yeah. With guys like with Ekwonu, that's going to be there, and I know he's developing. He's been having some rough stretches, but they're going to utilize that zone to get our big-bodied guys on defense having to move lateral, and that's going to create a massive mismatch issue for us, because once those guys get flowing, McCaffrey is quick enough where he's going to be able to stop, cut back, find the hole, and take advantage of that weakness. So
Titans also try to do outside zone too, but they don't have McCaffrey. They don't have Henry. Can't do what McCaffrey does in the cutback.
Not at all.
But we did play the outside zone extremely well against the Titans, though. Just for people out there.
And again, it's just a different type of back, right? Mm-hmm. So McCaffrey is going to possess in terms of his quick twitch ability, his stop and go ability, it will make it challenging because McCaffrey is not just going to run up into a hole, where there's a bunch of big bodies. He's going to let that flow go, and he's going to stop, cut back. So the linebacker discipline or the defensive back discipline for that third safety that's going to be up there is going to be significantly important in terms of that. And if Azeez doesn't play, Jihad Ward played fairly well, but again, big-bodied Henry that does not possess great lateral agility is much easier to contain on those runs than it's going to be for McCaffrey. So, I just think the Panthers offensively pose a lot more challenges for our defense than what the Titans did the week before.
I agree.
And I just think, from that standpoint, it's going to be a challenge. I still think it's going to be a close game because I just think both quarterbacks are going to play to
give
a
us
level
a shot
where, it's going to give us an opportunity to win the game in the fourth.
Yo, Baker
Very similar
will
to
give
what we
you
just had.
opportunity to grab interceptions. And one thing for sure, one thing that didn't really get mentioned a lot, as far as at least I didn't hear, is the Giants put their hands up on a lot of passing lanes. They had their hands up. It was a lot of opportunity. They were trying to bat the balls a lot. Baker Mayfield is like what, 5'11", 6 foot tall, barely.
5'10", 6 foot probably.
You gotta have your hands up if you can't get to him. The Browns batted a lot of balls down from Mayfield, and that is super important for this group of guys. Continue with that same, put your hands up, bat him down, and that's gonna help a lot.
Don't expect that to continue, Antonio. Don't expect that to continue this week. And the reason I say that is these guys are going to go back to the film room, right? McAdoo's had very limited. It's the Ben McAdoo revenge game, and it's the Dave Gettleman. What franchise could I ruin worse, Carolina or New York, that we got going on this weekend? But realistically, you would have to suspect that they're going to do things to get Baker clearer throwing lanes, right, and give him an opportunity to have a better option to avoid those batted down balls. So it's going to be an interesting game this week. I think the matchup's going to be really good. It's going to pose a lot of different challenges this week, so it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun one to watch for sure. Even though both teams aren't really top-notch quality teams, it should be a good game.
Go ahead, man.
You mentioned it, Mike. Like that was I was going to say. I mean, Ben McAdoofus is their OC. They also got Matt Rule, who he's probably on. If they don't make it to the playoffs, if they don't show some type of semblance of improvement, he's probably not. He's probably looking for another job. I don't know who the DC is, so that's interesting. Coaching staff versus coaching staff. Ours is just starting. This guy's 3 years in. It's that part that's gonna be interesting as well. That was a good point.
Doesn't he have like a crazy contract though with the Panthers though?
He's like 6 years in, but it isn't like the owner of Google. The owner of he's like one of these IT tech dudes that
you're right.
Man,
you're right.
he craps that. He craps $1,000.
He'll fire him, no problem. Yeah.
Right. So
he'll eat that.
So Matt Rule is on a very short leash. He's on his way out, basically, unless they do something amazing. So
and losing to the Giants is not going to help any other teams.
Right. I mean, the owner is David Tepper, who's kind of a wild person, and he's more than willing to dump people. So Rule, I mean, I think they're running their organization exactly the wrong way. You don't let a lame duck coach hang out and kind of run your draft and ruin things, but that's what they're doing. If this game comes down to one of the keys to the game, we talk about a lot of the potential X's and O's. One of the keys to the game, like most games, again, if we come down late and we're close late, I feel like then this is one of the few games where we have an absolute advantage over the other team because
because I think the opposite.
I don't think Matt Rule could outcoach Brian Dable and Wink Martindale.
Well, I think that Baker has a little bit of a clutch gene though. I think that when it comes late in the game, he plays better than like first 3 quarters, though. That's my thing about it.
I mean, it comes down to player execution. I'm just saying if it's late and we're talking about play calling and scheme and clock management,
they're
the kind of things that
over us. I got you.
I think we have a better coaching staff, and I think this could play out very, very similarly to last.
Bigger balls, that's for sure.
We have gigantic, humongous
boulders.
Well,
right.
Before we go to the next question, I just want to say this too. So two things, obviously, which is look out for the batted ball stuff. Obviously, like the defense has to bat out of balls. Keep an eye out for when a tight end lines up next to Equano. Equano, for whatever reason, when a tight end was next to him, which is supposed to be a benefit for the tackle, he looked a lot worse in that situation. I don't know why. That's one thing that I'm gonna keep my eyes on in terms of him. In terms of, we'll start off. I'm gonna start off first with the defense, guys. Is the Panthers' defense better or worse matchup for the Giants' offense? And I'm gonna start with you, Mike.
I mean, it's a worse matchup for our offense.
The Panthers' defense is a worse matchup than the Titans' defense
Yes.
for the Giants. Okay.
Yeah, strictly because of the secondary situation that they've got guys they can keep on an island, that are going to be able to take away the majority of our weapons in the receiving game. And as a result of that, it's going to create significant problems. It's going to force Jones to have to actually hold on to the ball much longer. And, we know where that gets us once the ball's being held on too longer, which is why I think because we have a good coaching staff, they're not going to put him in the position where he's going to have to hold the ball long. It's going to be a lot of quick sideline throws, the wide receiver screens, the quick out. It's going to be very, very quick.
He's gonna be doing a tour.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot like that this week, just to try to get the ball out before those pass rushers can get after them by having to hold on to the ball.
Real quick, Monty on the chat said the Giants coach will play to win, and then Matt Rule will coach not to lose. So that's probably going to be the difference.
I agree with that.
Cookie Monster said it was a good win last week, but we still got a lot of work to do. Juice Manji said Leo is gonna eat, and Ash said the thing that worries him is that didn't worry him is the ability of Tannehill to air it out. Baker did it last week, so Baker did air it out. I agree. Yeah. Baker did air it out at the end of the game. Almost took that game away from the Browns. Manny, what do you think? Which defense you think is going to be a better problem for the Giants? Titans defense or the Panthers defense?
I think this is probably going to be like if you just go player for player, because it's only week 2, so it's still hard to kind of tell with the team. Like week 15, it's going to be a completely different ball game with the whole season.
Sure.
But I think the defense is about it. Maybe it's a little bit better, but it's not too much better than what they were playing with last week. I mean, the defensive line is stout. Derek Brown is a dog at D tackle. Brian Burns, you guys mentioned him plenty. He's a dog. Yetur Gross-Matos is a beast as well. He's all right, but they got some players on the D line. Mm-hmm. I would probably, compared to the Tennessee's D line, I think I would probably say Jeffrey Simmons is probably better than all those guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's my opinion. Yeah. But then, their linebacking corps a little better. Corey Littleton is a lot better player. I like Brandon Smith coming out of college. Shaq Thompson is underrated. They got some good pieces there. The defensive backs, a safety. Shout out Sean Chandler, former Giant. Once a Giant, always a Giant. Jeremy Chin. They got some decent safeties. The cornerbacks obviously is what a lot of people go to. CJ Henderson, JC Horn. That's really 2 good young cornerbacks. JC Horn is coming off ACL or Achilles last year, I think. One of those two. One of those
surgery, yeah.
Yeah, so let's see how he looks coming back. How he looks his next game coming out. I mean, they have a good defense. They do have a good defense. I don't know if it's as good as the Tennessee's defense, but I think it's comparable. And it'll show a lot of the Giants are able to move this ball. Like if Saquon Barkley has another big running match against this team, it's gonna it's solidifying he's back. So it's gonna be fun.
Sal, go right ahead, brother. What do you think is a worse matchup for the Giants? This defense coming up with the Panthers or the Titans?
I don't actually necessarily think they're a worse matchup. I think they do have probably a little bit better corner play, and they're a little bit better against the pass. I think that's fair to say. Worse against the run, and where their strength is on the defensive line is where our strength is on our offensive line. their interior defensive line is good. It's not as good as
The
as
Titans.
Tennessee,
Mhm.
and that's where our weakness is. So I mean, I think all in all, it's going to be fairly balanced. At the end of the day, I think it's a fairly similar matchup on defense for our team. But it will probably lead to us having to balance our offensive attack more. I don't think we can fully rely on Saquon, even though they gave up a lot of yards. They're going to key in on him, and I think this game, like most, is going to come down to whether or not quarterback play can overcome a lot of other deficiencies.
Oh boy.
I think this is a close game. I mean, I think that Vegas has us as 2.5 point favorites at home, which is basically like saying it's a wash, right? Or maybe they think we're a half-point underdog. Really, we're getting those 3 points at home on a neutral field. So I think that this is really like a down to the wire, which quarterback wins it kind of game, and I really don't know. I think I don't think it's a big blowout either way. We're probably talking like a 20, another one of these 21, 23, 20 kind of games, right down the stretch.
Right.
Yeah, no, I
Hey,
totally agree.
shout out Peter and shout out to Don.
Big shout out
Appreciate
to
you guys. And
go ahead, Manny.
no, I was gonna say the one thing we're talking about. We haven't mentioned their offense versus our defense,
And
right?
we will. Let me just go real quick and say, in terms of
Yeah.
defense, I think the Titans' defense is a worse matchup for us because we are a run-first team, and I think we identified it now that we've run through Barkley, that the offense operates through Barkley. The Panthers have a better secondary, in my opinion, in terms of just corners, because I even think the Titans have one of the best safeties, if not the best safeties in the league. That duo is out of their mind. But I think what the Panthers do have is better corners than the Titans. I think the Titans have a better defensive line. I think the Titans have better safeties. Maybe linebackers, you give that to the Panthers. Maybe corners, you give it to the Panthers. But I think that we'll have, and again, just because of what I saw what the Browns do, even with a stacked box against Chubb was able to do his thing. I think Saquon is a better running back than Chubb, and I'm expecting to see the exact same production. I expect them to stretch out plays, even if it's not outside zone. I'm expecting them to go ahead and have some pulling guards, Feliciano, pull all day, and just hit those outside runs. But I do think that this is a better matchup for the Giants on defense than on offense. And I'll flip it over and say which offense, for the Titans or Carolina, it's a more threat to the Giants defense. It's definitely this Carolina offense. It's way more threatening to the Giants than the Titans defense. The Titans offense strictly relies on their running back, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry sets everything up. Unfortunately for them, Derrick Henry is one-dimensional. Christian McCaffrey is the white boy version of Saquon Barkley. If he gets shut down on the run, he will absolutely kill us in the passing game. There is no way to contain him. There's no way of shutting down Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey can only be contained, not stopped. And it's going to be funny. It's going to be a taste of our own medicine. Who's going to be the running back to shine the most? So on our defense is in a lot of trouble. I'm agreeing with what you guys say. It's gonna be a nickel. Has to be a heavy nickel. It can't just be like a whole bunch of corners out there. We have to probably have a 3 safety look out there for the Panthers. Just because if we go nickel, if we go dime, and we go one linebacker and then a whole bunch of corners, I don't even know if we have that many corners. They could just run the ball on us at 11 personnel, and they could just run right through us. So it has to be a balance of, hey, maybe you even will see Kalicha on first down, and then just take him out after first down and get second and third down with safeties and corners.
So I do think that we're going to play a lot of dime and nickel combined. I don't think it'll be just cornerbacks. I think we're going to be playing with a lot of safeties. We don't have the cornerbacks to number one. This is the kind of game where I feel like you kind of want to isolate their best receiver. I think Monty mentioned in the chat, and that I agree. You want to try. You want your best corner as much as possible to take DJ Moore out of this game.
Which running back was overdrafted by Gettleman wins the game?
I was just gonna say it. I was waiting patiently to get it out.
But I do think that Wink's gonna have to come up with some sort of system to break this field into segments. I can see him playing quarters. I can see him playing a lot of things that people don't expect just to try to take away the explosive play in this game. Because I just don't think we have the personnel to match up man to man with these receivers.
Yeah, and that's what I'm worried with too, as well, is is how this team is going to look when a linebacker has to cover CMC. You guys have convinced me in this pod that it's probably a good chance that Kayvon and Azeez don't play this game. So that's something that I'm kind of worried about as well too. And I'm worried about that side, but I'm mainly worried about covering at all. We didn't even talk about their tight ends. They got decent tight ends. Tremble from Notre Dame, he's not a scrub. They got some nice pieces on tight end as well. Overall, it's probably gonna be the best offense we played. The defense, right? It's only week 2, but it's probably this offense weapon wise, maybe a little bit better probably than what the Titans have to offer. Now, granted, the Titans coaching is gonna be better, and the Titans offensive line is better than what Carolina's going to have. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. It's got to be another masterclass by the coaches.
Speaking about the offensive line, Don just messaged that Moden, their starting tackle, did not practice today because he had an injury on his knee. So they might be down an offensive tackle, which we need all the help we could get, all the break we could get.
O'Shane Jimenez season.
Right? Right. Oh, I never thought I would hear that from anybody. Mike, go ahead, bro.
I definitely think the Panthers' offense poses a bigger problem for our defense than what the Titans did. I think the Titans are a very one-dimensional kind of team. They're a very throwback kind of team. They're going to run the ball, pound it north and south. They're going to run a lot of play action, right? And I mean, let's not underestimate the fact Ben McAdoo was a bad coach. He was a pretty decent offensive coordinator.
Yep.
No, I mean, the guy's not a complete goober. All right, he's had. He when he tried to go, old Joe Pesci and My Cousin Vinny with the slick back hair and everything else, he just stopped being true to himself, and he was better when he was the buffoon with the weird haircut and the oversized suit. You know what I'm saying?
Before he turned into Count Chocula, whatever.
Fucking play
exactly.
calling.
Did he have shades on this shit too? He was like, yeah,
man.
So
inside too, like me.
McAdoo's a very decent offense coordinator. We brought it up before. I saw one of the guys had tweeted out. I think it was we had ran 84% of our offensive plays this Sunday. We're in 11 personnel. And I laughed at that because I'm like, man, people were bitching when McAdoo was running 11 personnel all day long. Why are we running this? It just goes to, you know what I mean? And it just goes to show you. It just goes to show you that the West Coast system, the Bill Walsh tree and his system has taken over the NFL.
Yeah.
Right. It has taken over the NFL. Right. It's that quick passing game, the motion, all of it, using the backs. He really revolutionized the game of football, and 90% of the offensives now, if not more, are just some variation of his system was built, that these guys run at this point. So, I'm pretty concerned at how we're going to see this thing shake out. With CMC and with Moore. I know Shenault was inactive last week for Carolina.
Oh, right. I forgot he was there.
Maybe he's active this week. He just got there late. He's picking things up. They keep him inactive a week. But Sal mentioned before, that dude's got speed. He's not a slow dude. He can really make some damage. Especially with Robbie Anderson. DJ Moore is more of that gritty type of receiver. He's going to go over the middle. He's going to make those plays and be that kind of guy. So I'd be pretty concerned about how this is going to match up for us. And I don't see it being a game where we're looking at a 21 or 20 point game. If the Giants want to win this game, they got to score 24 points or more. Carolina's going to score. They're going to put points on the board.
Yep.
All right,
Like they're gonna find a way to get points on the board.
let's close out the pod and let's talk about predictions. Sal, I'll go first. I'll go ahead and say I'll say it's a Giants win. It's 24-21 Giants. 24-21. Sal,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm with you. So at the end of the day, I just can't pick Matt Rule to beat us. At the end of the day, I feel like he's going to make a mistake. Baker's going to make a mistake at the end of the game. He's a better quarterback than ours, to be totally honest. But I think he's going to make a mistake. He makes mistakes late. I like your score. I think 24-20, something like that. Mm-hmm. Giants. And the key to the game at the end of the day, like the key to all games, is explosive plays. We had them this week.
Yeah.
That's why we scored 3 touchdowns. We had explosive plays on those drives. Warren Sharp talked about this on the Giants Weekly pod. He said, he's on the Schmelk pod. He said, if you don't score if you don't get an explosive play, you barely score touchdowns on that drive. I think the number is like 5% or something. One explosive play, which he defined as 15 yards or greater, 50% of those drives had touchdowns. 2 or more, it was like 70% to touchdowns. So this offense, the Kafka offense, and I'm going to call it the Kafka offense because that's what it looks like, right?
I agree.
This is built on creating mismatches and creating downstream conflict for DBs to get explosive plays in the pass game, and it's built on trying to create holes and letting Saquon Barkley create explosive plays on his own if you give him a running lane. So I think if we can keep doing that, we score 3 touchdowns plus and we win 24-20, and that's what I'm predicting.
Manny, go right ahead.
They always say a team takes the identity of their coach, and I think balls for balls, we got the better coach between the two. I think Brian Daboll is a better head coach. I have more confidence in the offensive play calling of Kafka and Daboll sprinkled in than McAdoo. Better OC when he didn't have Hall of Famer Eli Manning as a QB. We'll see how that is. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go with you guys. I had the Giants winning this game when we did our prediction pod when it came out. I'm going to stick to that. I got them winning 24-20 as well. And I think this is going to be a big Kadarius Toney game. I think Kadarius Toney is going to come out, and I hope if he plays enough snaps, which I think this team is going to do, hopefully, then I think he has a big game, and I think he's going to, put New York City on fire.
Mike, our guest, let me know what you think, brother. I want to hear this one.
Oh, boy.
Surprise.
Right
the Giants are going to win this game.
The Giants are going to win this game!
Well, now I know we're going to lose. What the hell, Mike?
Oh, wait. Give me a score, my brother.
Mike says we're going 2-0. Fuck.
I got us 24-23.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be. I don't think the Giants are going to win by 4
points.
I think this is going to be a one point game. It's going to be a nail biter, just like what we had this past week. I just see it. I just see it that way. The only difference is I think that we're going to end up with the ball last this time, with the lead.
Okay.
At that point, I think we're going to end up with the ball last with the lead, and we're going to be able to grind the clock out with Barkley and utilize that accordingly to win the game. From what I saw from this coaching staff this past Sunday, there's not a chance in hell that I could pick Panthers coaching staff to outmaneuver and outman this coaching staff. It's not going to happen. Now, again, we'll see where things go as teams are not as evenly matched, but I will caveat, I will not be surprised if the Giants do end up losing this game. I don't believe they're going to lose this game. I do think that they're going to legitimately win it, but I can see it happening where, a couple of breaks don't go their way this week and, it just as easily goes back the other way to Carolina. But I'm going to stick right now with the Giants winning the game 24-23.
We had
That's where I'm
Daniel
at.
Jones as our quarterback, so any team is still in it to win it in every week against us. So that
Voldemort.
that's
We have
just
Voldemort.
never gonna change.
Voldemort.
I man, Manny, you got anything else to add on before we close it out here, brother?
The Cowboys are poverty. They stink. They won't win anything until Jerry Jones steps the F down. And as a Giants fan, I hope he never steps down. So keep it going, Jerry. We're rooting for you here.
Yeah, man. Sal, anything you got for closing thoughts? Anything on it?
No. Look for the explosive plays. That's the key to victory. If you see the Giants start stacking those plays, I think you have a good idea that we're going to come out on top because, like Mike said, I just cannot see our coaches getting out coached by Matt Rule in a close game. I can see Daniel Jones blowing it, but I don't see our coach. But if it's close late and we have a lead, they're not going to let him blow it.
Hopefully, Mike. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here, brother?
Yeah, Tony's the X factor. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm going to be very clear about that for the offense for them to win the game this week. It's going to be Tony's going to have to be the X factor. They're going to use him a ton in motion. I think they're going to give the quarterback a ton of good throwing lanes to the middle of the field. All right, where you're going to Dable's a staple for deep crosses, right, and getting those deep crossing routes to the middle of the field with wide open lanes. I expect that. I also think Tony may end up with a rushing touchdown as we get closer to the goal line in the red zone on an end around. I think we may see something like that come to fruition. Where they're going to get a quick snap to him where he's going to end up getting the ball and go that route. So that's where I'm at. But if the Giants if they do pull out the victory, Tony is going to have to play a major role this week for that to happen.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, Mike, and I'll go a little bit on what I was going to tweet out, like, yo, Tony's going to have a big game, but then I deleted it because I'm like, I don't have any evidence of practice Tony, nothing with Tony, so I can't just call out my ass. As somebody who's trying to create content, who's bringing facts, who's looking at film, I can't honestly say that Tony's going to have a big game. But it's just the media has been on Tony's case so much that I would appreciate if this coaching staff heavily utilizes Tony in this next game, because I'm getting sick and tired of the media trying to like set this kid up. So I do hope that does happen.
Right.
I do hope.
Yeah, and
Tony, I'll just give you one better. They don't have another option.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
it's Saquon or bust.
It's Saquon
going to need his explosive playability. And like I said, I think if Wan'Dale was healthy, Tony is screwed. Okay, because I think Wan'Dale has a very similar skill set to run those plays that Tony would run. He may not be as explosive as what Tony can be on the field.
What do you think? What do you guys think is holding back Tony from being on the field?
I don't think this is all that complicated.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's even this complicated. I think people try to like analyze like, oh, they feel this way, they say something else. Look, he hasn't been at practice. He doesn't have the reps. They're implementing a new system, right? A system that is predicated on memorization of complex concepts where the quarterback calls out one word and that's supposed to tell the offensive line what their blocking schemes are. It's supposed to call out the motion. It's supposed to call out the route trees. If you don't have the reps, your coaches cannot trust you to get this right, in game situation. That doesn't mean they don't trust you as a person or as a player, but you just don't have the reps yet, right? I think it's a matter of practice. He needs to practice, and the more he practices, the more he'll play. And I think when you see, like Mike is saying, there are certain plays that I think he's got down. You're going to see those. You're going to see the end arounds. You're going to see the pitches. You're going to see some of the gadget type stuff. But maybe they don't trust Kadarius Toney to sit as a Z right now and have, a route tree where he can have an option route. And Daniel Jones has to have confidence that Kadarius Toney is going to read that defense properly the way it's supposed to be read and make that play.
But then here's my question.
I'm just not sure he's there yet.
But then here's my question to you, my rebuttal to that. And Peter said, I think he wasn't 100% healthy, didn't practice enough. Dabo said the guys who practice are going to play. That's fine. But he was in the building. Like, I get that he didn't practice, but is he not understanding the concepts of the play? Is he not understanding the film room?
It's something. I mean, like Shep like came off the freaking like cart, right, and rolled onto the field and was an immediate success. but
Yeah.
I don't think we can compare.
Well, there you go. Exactly. Like Shep walked in healthy, walks into the field, starts.
That's
So,
Shep.
to me-
Shep is a veteran. Shep knows playbooks. He can probably grasp them
So
very
to
quickly.
me, it's a playbook issue. It's a mental issue. It's not.
And that's what Monty said as well.
Monty
Remember
said-
when people
try to
tried?
say
Monty
there was
said
no
it in the chat.
consequences, and Tony not getting the playbook right away and missing practice reps. We are seeing these consequences.
Absolutely.
I think it's he
And maybe-
doesn't know the playbook.
And maybe Dayball also is just playing the long game, like when he like with KT and Aziz when it comes to a little bit of that injury. Maybe he's just saying like, listen, are we gonna win? Like, are we winning the Super Bowl this year? Hell no. Do we have a chance to make it to the playoffs? Probably at this point, still hell no. Let's wait for the week 2 and week 3 to go on and see what happens. But
So
I think at this point he just doesn't. He's just not trying to go. He's not gonna be like Joe Judge and just go in and play these dudes if they're okay just because he's trying to be tough. I think he's gonna be very measured with these guys until they've shown him not only that they're 100% healthy, but that they get the playbook.
So here's my.
Well, keep in mind, he's also played guys who have been there and who have won the reps, right? In practice. He's shown that. Like, you earn it, I'll play you. Right?
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney, whether it's injury or whatever, he didn't earn the reps over guys like guys like Sills or I hate
Shout out
the fact
Monty.
that yeah, I mean, sorry Monty, but I hate the fact that he's behind Sills in the depth chart. But Sills put in the work. Sills knows this offense a little bit better right now. So I think Daboll's just very consistent. He if you earn it, you play. If you haven't earned it yet, you don't. If you've earned it partially, you'll get some plays. That's where we are with Kadarius Toney. I think it'll gradually increase.
I hope so too. And my fear is also that Tony is just a person that, for whatever reason, can't just grasp concepts and stuff like that. Where, listen, at the end of the day, some players that are super gifted just can never understand their IQ level for whatever reason. They can't understand football language. And Peter said, I just hope he doesn't become just a gadget guy. That is my biggest fear with Tony, like a first round draft pick that just becomes a gadget guy because he doesn't know how to run routes right. He can't get the fact that you have to run 15 yards and then come back on whatever, little things like that. He's not disciplined enough. I hope that is my biggest fear too.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
And it's going to be fun to watch. At the end of the day, our coach has balls, and that's going to take you a lot in the NFL. Scare money don't make money.
Yo, real quick before we sign out, I just want to give a big shout out to everyone in the chat that passed through the chat. This was our biggest show live in person. Hopefully it continues when we go off camera and people watch it over. Big shout out to all you guys. Subscribe to the channel, please. I appreciate that. Mike, give your @ I know even though everybody here probably in that chat knows who you are, but your Twitter @ and we'll go ahead and we'll round the table.
It's Mikey said 66 at Twitter, so feel free to reach out to me. Plenty of people already have on a daily basis, especially in the last 48 hours. But feel free if you got something you want to say, jump on in.
Go ahead, Manny.
My Agenda 58. I got the man with the balls on my profile pic, and yeah, subscribe, follow. Appreciate all the support, and I just appreciate you guys just continuing to ride with us because we'll ride with y'all.
And Sal, go right ahead.
Queens_guy. I'm the guy who has the picture of Brandon Brown giving Chris Pettit his goodbye death stare.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. For me, BT Giants, you can find me on Twitter, man. I appreciate everybody that came through, man. Thank you so much. It was a dope-ass episode. Thank you for Mike for coming as special guest. Shout out to my co-host, Sal. Shout out to my co-host, Manny. Guys, have a great one. I'll be trying to post. I couldn't find a Carolina Panthers content creators. I do have friends that are Carolina Panthers guys, so I'll try to make a preview episode with a Carolina content creator or as not Carolina Panthers fans, and I'll try to do it by tomorrow. So be in the lookout for that, and have a good one, guys. Peace.